Welcome to Tamara Lynette Tales. I'm Tamara, and I spill the tea on your favorite reality stars.
It's reunion time here in Boston, MAFS 14, with Dr. Pepper, Pastor Cal, and Kevin Frazier. Y'all don't want to miss this.
So each day leading up to day 2 of the reunion special, Dr. Viviana posted a countdown with one of the cast members. Could this be a countdown to her last appearance on Married at First Sight? It's been officially announced that she will not be returning next season. Now, I will get into that in much more detail in a different video. Y'all know I got the details on what she had to say about it. As for part 2 of this reunion special, it was kind of a how are you mistreated by Karen show. Every group session where she was in the mix seemed to have some focus on how she impacted the other cast members in a negative way. So we get to see how the ladies chat with Kevin. They said that they have a group chat and talk all the time. So Alyssa blocked Karen on social media. So Karen said it happened the night of the bachelorette party when they were all talking about their biggest flaws, and Hostage said she didn't have any. Then Karen made a lack of self-awareness joke to Hostage. So she claims she was blocked right then and there. But how would she know that? Did Hostage pull out her phone like right in that moment and say, "This is me blocking you"? Hostage said that's not true. Karen was talking bad about her behind her back that night, so she blocked her. Which lines up with what Jasmina said that happened on After Party like a long time ago. Jasmina said she hasn't blocked Karen, but she has unfollowed her. So Jasmina and Hostage are friends. I suspect they feel the same way about Karen. Now, Kevin played the clip where Tootie was going off on Katina about needing to see what type of woman she was. And then he asked Jasmina what she thought when she saw that scene. Jasmina said that she cussed Tootie out a lot. She was close to Katina and was hearing about it firsthand. Okay, so Jasmina cussed out Tootie, eh? Makes me wonder how many times she cussed out her own husband. She said what we didn't see was after those outbursts when Tootie would get angry, he would catch himself and admit he was wrong and apologize. Now, I've always said it's not all about the apology, but what you're apologizing for. Like, sorry I raised my voice at you earlier. Okay, cool. But sorry I cussed you out, ran over your Peloton, and put all your clothes in the bathtub and poured red paint on them. Yeah, it's time to go. There's not enough remorse in the world. Everyone was surprised that Noisy and Steve had problems in the beginning because they seemed to be doing so great. And Kevin asked the ladies what they thought about Steve not having a job. And Katina said that when she heard that he took time to travel across the country, she figured that he had money. Karen was like, this man needs a job. She grew up in a refugee camp and she wanted a 6-figure man. With the exception of Karen, they all claimed that they didn't judge him for not having a job. I call BS on that one. I'm pretty sure their knee-jerk reaction was like many of ours before we heard more details. And they were like, no, they didn't. I would be mad as hell if they paired me with someone who was unemployed. Yeah, then after they asked some follow-up questions, they all got over it, but never judged him? Doubt it. Kevin played a montage of scenes where Karen angered each of the other wives. Kevin asked her if her lack of a filter has gotten her in trouble in the past, and she said, of course, but she's open to learn and loves feedback and is very receptive to it. Child, the set got so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Everybody was looking at her like, have you met you? Karen accused Hostage of sending private messages to Mark and showing up at the apartment and talking bad about her behind her back. Hostage said that Mark contacted her to see how she was doing, and that she did not initiate the conversation, and she never talked badly about Karen. And this lines up with what Mark said about this on After Party as well. He said he reached out to her to make sure she was okay. Now, the other lady said Hostage never spoke badly about Karen to them because Hostage didn't care about Karen. Katina said she saw the messages between Hostage and Mark, and they were not inappropriate, and that they all text each other, including Karen texting Tootie. Now, Karen, how are you mad at any of these ladies for texting your husband when you texting husbands too? This makes no sense to me. Kevin asked Jasmina about a fight she and Karen got into after taping an episode of the After Party. She said Karen was saying nasty things about Hostage and stopped her and said, she's not here, she's my friend, please don't talk about her behind her back. But Karen wouldn't stop, and Karen told her to stop talking or get out of her car. So later, Jasmine texted Karen and told her that she was disrespectful and that was the meanest thing anyone has ever said to her. So moving forward, she didn't want to be around her energy. In other words, Jasmine was like, kick rocks, Karen. Hostage is my friend because she's a good person. Karen's version is that Jasmine was getting loud with her when she was telling her to stop talking about Hostage. Karen was like, you want to get loud? You can get out of the car and walk up the ramp. But Noisy confirmed Jasmine's version of the story by saying that Jasmine never yelled at Karen. So this was pretty much a bitch session against Karen instigated by Kevin's questions. Now, I'm not saying he wrote the questions, but his line of questioning brought out their claws. Now, this wasn't about mending these ladies' relationships with each other. It simply set them up to spill the tea as to why they don't like Karen. So the tone set for the men's session was different from the ladies. This was more of a supportive bro sesh, but still had a lot to do with Karen. Kevin came out the box and said that he noticed that Mark is like a different person when he's not around Karen. Mark said, absolutely, with the guys, it's a completely different energy. Kevin asked the guys if they felt like they needed to defend Mark against Karen. And Tootie said, absolutely, Karen is quick to point the finger, but she doesn't take responsibility for her own actions. It's pretty bad when a group of men feel the need to protect a man from his wife's verbal attacks. Kevin said that Karen likes to talk about Mark's mom and grandma. Mark said, she's just trying to hurt me because they are irrelevant to what we fight about. And he said the last time they got into a big blowout fight, Karen spit on his shirt. He said he dealt with a lot of bullying growing up, but Karen is the worst case of bullying he's ever dealt with. He said he's frightened of her. So instead of "Are you smarter than a fifth grader?" this dude was on "Is your wife a bigger bully than a fifth grader?" Kevin played scenes of some of the bad things that happened to Mark during the season: bed bugs, needing to move, having to put his cat down. Mark got really emotional. And Kevin said that Karen was there and did a lot of good things. Do you guys think that since she did so many good things that Mark should have tried harder? Picky said that she did do good things, but the good things don't erase the bad, like the condescending and the low blows. And Steve straight up said he feels Mark is much better off without her, and no one should have to go through what she put him through. Yes, that part. Thank you, experts, for ignoring what we all saw from her audition video. We could tell that she was going to be a verbal handful. So Kevin asks Chris if he thinks Hostage is a good person. He said that's a loaded question. He basically said that she didn't handle her situation of being paired with someone she felt was a mismatch correctly. It's unfortunate that we didn't really get to know Chris, but from what I've seen, he's handled himself really well and has been very respectful towards someone who treated him like a bologna and peanut butter taco. Kevin asked the guys what they thought of Tootie's ideas of marriage, like having a warm home-cooked meal every day. Now, we didn't hear any of them answer that question. Instead, Steve said he thinks that Tootie has learned a lot through the process. Picky says that he talks to Tootie all the time, and Tootie will call him when Katina makes something and say, "My wife put it down, man. My wife put it down." The guy said she's making him gourmet meals and introducing him to foods he's never tried, like lobster tails. So how's she going from being such a horrible cook to gourmet? Could it be that Tootie was being a little over dramatic about Katina's skills? Or maybe Katina tripped over some recipes. Kevin sat down with the experts and asked what surprised them the most. Dr. Pepper said she didn't expect Karen and Mark to be so combustible. Pastor Cal said, Hostage and Chris. And Dr. Pepper was like, oh, I want to change my vote to them. I don't think most of us were surprised that she wasn't attracted to him, but what surprised me is that she's living in Boston and looking for a bona fide cowboy. Now, I've never been to Boston. Maybe y'all got a whole country scene out there that I don't know about, though. Kevin asked if they anticipated that they would all say yes on decision day. And all the experts were like, no. Okay, so they were at least watching the same show that we were. Kevin praised them for Tootie and Katina. He said that they got off to a rough start, but when Tootie looks back at himself, he said he looks crazy. And all of the experts were like, "Aw, crazy. We're so happy to hear that. Now they're a beautiful couple. This is what the show is all about." Now, I think Kevin latches on to one cast member each season and hops on their bandwagon like hook, line, and sinker, because last season it was Gil, this season is Tootie. I'm not sure how to feel about it, because meeting these people in person, you get more real energy from them than you do watching on TV. And I'd like to believe he's changed for the better, so I don't know. Kevin said his mind was blown when he heard Dr. Pepper say she and her husband live separately. She explained that she and her husband are at different stages in life. Like, they already raised kids in separate marriages. They both love where they were living, so they figured, why disrupt that? So Kevin brings in Jasmine and Picky. Dr. Viviana asks, what happened? And so Jasmine busted out with this laptop story that was like hard to follow and made no sense. She needed to borrow his laptop. He said yes. She said okay. The day she needed it, she asked, "Are you still bringing it?" And he said, "You never said you needed it." And yes, I did. She got frustrated, and that made him want to ask for a divorce. So Dr. Viviana was like, that's just a miscommunication. That can't be what led to the divorce. And Jasmine explained what we heard her say in the first episode of the reunion about Picky not feeling she was putting in the effort. So based on what they showed us, Jasmine seemed to be doing all the talking. Picky could barely get a word in. He was like, "Can I just say, I'm not done talking. How can you say that you put in effort when I was the one who initiated good morning texts and texts to wish you good night? I did those things for you, but you never did them for me. All you did was come over one day and sit on my couch." Based on what little we got to hear from Picky, I'm guessing that he valued spending time together over texting and didn't count texting as effort. Whereas Jasmine was cool with texting and felt him coming over to her house once, but not initiating texts, was her putting in all the effort. So Jasmine said it was hard to come back from their arguments because there was no feelings between them, and the arguments just turned her off more and more, and she does not want to see if it's possible for them to move forward like the experts were encouraging them to. Experts, it's too late, let it go. Regardless of whether or not Jasmine was ever attracted to Picky, these two never seemed to know what the other one needed to be happy, like period, in the story. Next up was Chris and Hostage. Dr. Pepper says she doesn't understand why Hostage feels they matched her with someone who was so wrong for her because they looked at what she asked for and gave it to her. Hostage said, "I would like to respectfully disagree with what you say. I don't feel like I got the list of things I asked for. I don't feel the things that I wrote in the questionnaire were taken into consideration. Our core values are different, and I don't feel he's what I asked for." And Dr. Viviana said, "He's exactly what you wrote down in your questionnaire." Well, I don't agree with that. Dr. Viviana and Dr. Pepper were very defensive and not playing games with this little girl. Dr. Viviana took off her therapist wig and put on her lawyer bangs. Sister Girl pulled out her cell phone. She was ready for this fight. She had Hostage's questionnaire queued up on her homepage and read the top 5 most important things Hostage said she wanted in her mate. Compassionate, funny, giving, hardworking, loyal. Are you saying that he's none of those things? Because you said you didn't get anything. And need I remind you to please respectfully address the court when you answer? Now, so Hostage says she didn't feel Chris was loyal. All the experts sat quiet and rolled their eyes. Hostage started crying. "I sat here today because I was told I wasn't going to be attacked, and that's what I'm feeling." Dr. Viviana was like, "Honey, we're not attacking you. This is just questions. Please answer them accordingly because the jury would like to know." And Hostage said, "Do I wish that things went differently? Yes, but I can't keep repeating myself. I don't know how else to explain it." Dr. Viviana is like, "You've been saying from the beginning that we didn't give you anything you wanted, and that's an error. It's not true. And I just wanted to make sure you didn't walk away from this thinking otherwise." Y'all, Dr. Viviana came to this cowgirl's rodeo to check a bitch. She was not having it. So Pastor Cal said, "Can I ask you something? Because I match people based on their values." what are your core values? All lives matter, Pastor Cal. I'm just kidding. She didn't say that, but she's conservative and Chris leans liberal. I believe that's the piece she doesn't want to say out loud. So they look at Chris and apologize for the experience he didn't get. And Chris says he feels that everyone is going to check some boxes, and then there are some that will not be checked. It's about whether or not you're willing to work on the boxes that aren't checked. He never got to a point where he was able to evaluate whether she checked any of his boxes because of the ones he didn't check for her. Now, I don't know about all this box checking, but Chris basically got tagged out of this game the moment she turned the corner and saw him at the altar. Game over, you're fired, your journey ends tonight. So Dr. Viviana was explaining about prejudging people and it's not a good look. And Hostage says, I know that this is like a running joke, but I am a good person and I was not shown in a good light and I'm really sad about that. And Dr. Pepper was like, oh, wait a minute, honey boo boo. We did not put those words in your mouth. That ugliness was all you. And my advice to you is not to have such a narrow list of who your person should be and be more open to, I have faith that I will find my person and when the time is right, he will come. So I wish we could have gotten to see the experts challenge her like this during the season rather than like 5 months later. Not that it would have made a difference in the outcome, but somebody needed to check her while she was cutting up. Finally, the experts met with Karen and Mark. Dr. Viviana asked how long after decision day did they come to the conclusion that it wasn't going to work. Karen said, it was my birthday. We spent 7 days remodeling his family home, and I said my birthday is this weekend, and all I want is to have a dinner and a massage for my birthday, and he gave me an IOU. So 6 weeks went by, and she asked him if he was ever going to give her the IOU, and he said no, and she didn't like the fact that he didn't keep his promise, so she was done. That's the best story you got of all the crap you guys have fought about. So Mark's version was, yeah, we spent a week getting the house ready because it wasn't up to a standard, and I wanted to make her happy, but there were too many fights and too many threats. So for some reason, when it comes to stories that include Karen, her version never includes the mean comments she made. So Pastor Cal said, what I see is two people who don't respect each other, and you both destroyed this marriage. As the conversation went on, Mark was teary-eyed and Karen rolled her eyes at him. Pastor Cal asked her how she felt about Mark's response to the conversation, like addressing his tears. And she said, well, if I'm gonna be honest, and Dr. Viviana is like, no, not if it's not gonna be tactful. No, stop. And Dr. Cal's like, no, let her talk. No, I don't want her to talk. She's gonna be tactful. So they're like getting into it. And then Karen's like, you're cutting me off. It's not right. His tears aren't sincere. Dr. Viviana's like, see, I knew it wasn't gonna be nice. Dr. Pepper asked Mark what he learned. I need to speak up sooner and not wait until it's too late. Like, I'm not gonna put up with that tone. Hey, that's not acceptable. Mark looks so chewed up and spit out during this reunion. It's like this little 8-week experiment took 6 years off his life. I mean, Mark does have his issues, like not showing appreciation or taking sex on the first night, then saying, you need to slow down. They were just not a good match from the beginning. Kevin talked about all the fun they had together as a group, and they showed the dance party that they had during the retreat, which was only talked about but not shown on After Party. So Kevin showed the aftermath of the Tootie and Karen fight, where she was insisting that they speak Spanish, which, by the way, is how she earned her nickname of Karen. So Kevin said, you all remember that, right? And Tootie was like, hola, instead of C for yes. Tootie said after that fight, he and Karen had a chat and discussed their boundaries, and according to Karen, she knew from the beginning that she would like Tootie. Although on After Party, Tootie said that she had it out for him in the beginning, nitpicking his clothes and talking ish about him. So Tootie said that they learned each other and he gave her advice in her marriage. He said, I gave them a lot of therapy. I guess somebody had to do it since the experts were checked out, but it really should have been Steve. They showed a clip from the beginning of the marriage where they were talking to Tootie and asked him what his wife's name is. Jeanette. Sorry, my wife's name's Jeanette. I almost forgot her name. Canette. Sorry, Canette. The producers finally had to tell him her name. Katina said now she understands why he was calling her wifey. They were both struggling with each other's names, so I thought this was a cute moment to share. They played clips from the bowling alley where Mark and Karen got into that fight, and then Karen went into the bathroom and just said a gang of horrible things about Mark. Kevin said, "Yo, dad said you have a vicious tongue. Did you go too far?" She said, "I feel bad about the delivery of what I was feeling, and I should have used kinder words and a kinder message." Kevin asked her if she is working on not being so vicious in her delivery. Again, whenever Karen was in the mix, they had him go after her, like trying to make up for what they should have done all season. She said she's working on her viciousness, and we saw on the show where she would say, "I need a minute." Regarding how badly she talked about him at the bowling alley, Kevin told Karen that you should probably apologize to Mark. He's sitting right there. She was extremely hesitant. Tootie had to chime in and tell her to take accountability. She apologized for hurting his feelings and being so quick to anger. And Steve was like, "Anything else you need an apology for, Mark?" He was like, "Get it while the getting's good." Kevin was like, "Yeah, y'all are having a moment. What else can she apologize for?" Now, I did feel like they were ganging up on her a little bit. But her words are like a gang of 7 people coming at you, so suck it up, Buttercup. So Mark took a moment to think about it, then said, I'm good. So Kevin brought up that Mark said Karen spit on his shirt, and he's hurt by it. "Did you spit on his shirt?" She said, "No, I don't have that much spit to give." What kind of answer is that? So after a little pep talk from Tootie, she finally said, "I'm sorry that the argument got to such a toxic level, and I'm sorry that during such a close contact fight that some spit may have landed on you. That was super disrespectful." Some spit may have landed on you? Woman, you spit on his shirt. Who does that? So they play a bunch of clips from the day Dr. Viviana gave them adult play toys to experiment, and Kevin asked Tootie how that was for him, and he got tripped up and said it was cool. It was like a big part of us because it was like the first time we were building up. Yeah, like we were building up, and it was like nice. I could swear he was about to say it was our first time having sex, but he caught himself. Or maybe I'm just looking for clues to prove my theory that they were having sex almost the entire time. I don't know. Oh, and they addressed the stain on his underwear on their wedding day. He said he had a pin in his pocket earlier that broke and leaked onto his undies, and that they weren't boo-boo stains. I'll accept that answer because the stains were on the side, even though it's more funny for me to say that they were boo-boo stains. So they showed a blooper reel in the end that featured all the cast members. I tell you, overall, this was like watching a group therapy session for Mark because your boy was wounded. As I mentioned earlier, this was very much a if your marriage didn't work out, blame Karen episode. But outside of their marriages, there didn't seem to be much of a conflict between the cast, except with Karen. So if they didn't pick on her, they must not have had enough things to talk about that would have held our attention. Anyway, Where Are They Now episode is next. Then it's a wrap for season 14.